guess many of you have been watching the audio visuals about Schaeffler, what we are as a company, but before we proceed into the details of what we could do on sustainable mobility, I would like to just quickly take you through what Schaeffler is all about. So I hope the AVs, the slide set is ready. Good afternoon again. My name is Anirban Mukherji. I am responsible for the key account management for automotive division of Schaeffler in India. And I would like to take you through what Schaeffler means to the Indian economy, to the Indian automotive industry particularly, and what we are doing in this ecosystem since 1962. So very quickly, as far as slides. No, you have to go behind. Okay, thank you. So, coming to Schaeffler in terms of sustainable solutions, as a company, we have been around for many years now in the world. More than 83,000 employees. We are one of the world's largest family-owned companies with more than 200 locations in over 50 countries. 76 plants, of which 4 are in India, spread across, and 20 R&D centers with core research. In 2022, we did about 15.8 billion euro of sales, of which about 73% was coming in from the automotive OEM or the automotive technologies, as we call it. And we have more than 75 plus years of experience serving our esteemed customers worldwide. And it's a very innovative company. I think we are the second largest company in Germany in terms of invention patents that is being filed year on year. Our products, well, they are everywhere in the field of mobility, and that's exactly why we choose to call ourselves by the logo of being pioneered motion. So right from two-wheelers, light commercial light vehicles, trucks and buses, as well as in off-road, as far as the automation, road transport is concerned, and then moving on in the industrial segment, we are in rail, aerospace, we are in raw materials, industrial automation, power transmission and wind. So almost the entire gamut of where we deal with motion worldwide. So what are our strengths in terms of Schaeffler's capabilities? We started as a metal forming company, a precision metal forming company, and from there we grew our technologies into the field of bearings. So FAG is one of our brand names, which we no longer use directly in the logo, but it's part of our product. Just like INA and Look, the other 3 brand names. Almost every competency in mechanical engineering is part of our DNA. We have right from large forgings, cold forming, heat treatment. We have machining, grinding, injection molding technologies, both in aluminum as well as plastics. A lot of coatings, high technology coatings, and now moving on to the field of e-mobility into windings, as well as assembly and 3D printing. Brief overview of Schaeffler in India. We have been around since 1962 with our first company, that was FAG Bearings India Limited. And over the 6 decades of presence, we also could consolidate our brand names into one. We are one Schaeffler India entity since 2018. And that gives us an opportunity to also leverage our synergies. 4 manufacturing plants, as I mentioned, and one is also under construction in Hosur, a new project in Hosur, greenfield one for expansion of our facility, where we will also do our e-mobility products going forward. Very balanced business portfolio between industrial and automotive divisions, and we have more than 75% net localization, and with a strong focus on R&D with 3 R&D centers. To also supplement our OEM ecosystem, we have a huge automotive aftermarket network with a lot of channel partners and service partners across the country, including availability of repair sets and replacement sets. So in 2022, we did about 6,800 plus crores, and we have been keeping in a healthy EBIT margins. And as you see on our product mix, we are a good blend between automotive aftermarket, automotive technologies, or auto OEM as we call it, as well as the industrial division. Coming to heavy duty, why we are here today. What has been Schaeffler doing? But before that, we should have a look at what the common challenges for in the field of sustainability, particularly in emissions and cleanliness, let's say the environment is concerned. Have a look at this. If you look at the base, as we are talking, 96% of the global vehicle stocks today, or vehicle park as we call it, are coming from cars and light commercial vehicles. Whereas only 4% of the vehicle park constitute trucks and buses. But this picture gets highly skewed when we see the kind of emissions that are being emitted from this set of vehicles. So 60% of the emissions, global CO2 emissions, that's almost 3.2 gigatons of CO2 are coming in from cars and LCVs. Whereas a disproportionate 40% comes from trucks and buses for obvious reasons that we see in terms of the overall net emission per vehicle or per engine. And that almost constitutes 2.2 gigatons of CO2. So here, as part of the fraternity, what can we do about it? So if you have a look at the worldwide CO2 regulations, a clear message is that we must move together. Why? Because there is a skewed regulatory framework if you look at the overall global scenarios, like even Mr. Petkar said today in the morning session, that the European Union and the North American market are probably taking the lead when it comes to CO2 emission reduction, followed by other countries like China, India, and Japan. So out here, if you have a look, you'll see mostly that India has been following a rather flattish framework in terms of the equivalent fuel consumption per 100 kilometers, as against what the CO2 proposal we see from EU. So the toughest limits come from European Union, and Schaeffler being an European company, we have a host of technologies. We need to be updated with a host of technologies to meet these challenging requirements, like the Euro 7 that is most likely to come in the next couple of years, as well in India most likely. Whereas if you look at countries like China and India, the targets are mainly ICE-based, that's internal combustion based, and they are in place. So in terms of potentials, if you look at a baseline scenario and what Schaeffler can do about, when we split our technologies between engine, vehicle, drivetrain, advanced technologies as zero emission technologies, and what we see on the verticals are various technologies which I'll talk about that are approaching net reduction with a 2019 baseline. So from a level of 0 or 100% from 2019, we are even looking at minus 15% going forward until 2025 with the various technologies that can be adopted to reduce emissions. But one thing that's coming out clear is that there is not going to be one single silver bullet in terms of electrification or let's say CO2 emission reduction of commercial vehicles. It will come out of a combination of various technologies, be it hybrids, also in terms of ZEVs, what we call zero emission vehicles. It could be pure electrics, it could be FCEV, and now as we know, it could be also H2 ICE technologies. Looking at the scenario from what our projection is as far as the heavy duty commercial vehicles segment is concerned, we are more or less very much in the ICE age. And here, when I say ICE, I mean the ICE engines. Almost 98% as compared to light vehicles, 98% of the global market of vehicle park is still with pure ICE engine, which is either diesel or flex fuel. But going forward, this figure in 2025 is likely to change marginally. So this could be about 93%, another 6% with pure battery electric vehicles, or if you could call them ZEV to be more precise, and then about 1% with hybrids. But the scenario is likely to change between 25 to 30 dramatically. We see a drastic projection of a reduction of ICE from a level of 93 to 60%. These are projections based on our own studies together with our partners, IHS. And when it comes to ZEV, we expect a 30% ratio with around 10% of HEVs. And this same figure going up to 2035, the scenario is likely to change further. Very different scenario as compared to battery electric vehicles, because as many of you know, in the European Union, they're almost planning that from 2035 onwards, there will be zero production of ICE vehicles. So the situation is quite different for obvious reasons in the HD sector. So let's look at the technologies that we have in each of those categories. Moving on to ICE, we have solutions that are essentially aimed at improving engine performance through the various duty cycles. So there are camshaft phasers. We have basically variable wall geometry, which internally we call this as iFlex, Air Eco and iOC Air. We have solutions for turbochargers and compound bearings that are again not only in the space of emission reduction but friction reduction dramatically. And then we have hybrid solutions like P1, hybrid modules and electric-heated catalysts. So overall, this is one way of looking at our solution portfolio for engines, particularly when we look towards EU 7 emission optimization. Going forward, let's look at the second piece of the cake, which is the 10% of HEVs or hybrids. We have a very innovative solution which is called a P1 hybrid module. This is synergistic together with the ICE. So you have the diesel or a flex fuel ICE engine, and with that you have a coupled hybrid module which is electric motor. So on conditions of part load conditions, and especially when you have situations of coasting, for example in a tipper application which runs on coasting mode, especially in the no load conditions, you can have very good opportunities of reducing CO2 through a combination of e-motor drive as well as the ICE engine drive. And if you look at the numbers in terms of fuel consumption, from an IIT baseline reference of 100%, there is a potential to go up to, in this case of the P2, P1, with a 48 volt system, there is a potential of a minus 2.1%, and going further, even up to 7.9 to 8% of CO2 reduction with a high voltage system like a 400 volts as against a 48 volts. And this particular solution is especially good at low load cycles, where the CO2 potential of reduction is much higher than a regular load cycles. Looking towards the last bit, and of course not the least bit, is the 30% of ZEVs, which are zero emission vehicles. Electrification, we are on a clear journey towards electrification. Schaeffler is also in the bandwagon. We have largely focused on light vehicles and now moving towards commercial vehicles. We have a clear area of focus on building active components for the electric motor, including a full system electric motors. The focus is more towards high voltage, and you know that globally, in case of particularly in heavy duties, we see a big trend line moving from the classic 400, 300 to 400 volt system, moving towards high voltage like 800 volts. So with that in mind, we are in a development phase of power electronics, not the run-of-the-mill current situation, but looking towards the future. We are in a development phase of silicon carbide technology, including at a high voltage level. So moving from IGBTs to SiC, this is the journey we are taking, and we would be ready for RFQs or production in a couple of years from now. Now coming to the other one and the most interesting one, into the hydrogen chain. So from a component company where we have core capabilities in the component making, we have moved into this space which we also see as a potential future, which could actually rub shoulders with H2 engine, is pure, let's say FCEVs, fuel cell vehicles. Of course, we know the messaging is clear that green hydrogen is the driver. Unless we have green hydrogen, we are not really going to achieve ZEV. There are organizations, including, of course, we know in India from the media that large organizations in India have already started investing heavily into production of green hydrogen. It's a step-by-step approach. Maybe from the grey, they move into green. Economy of scale is going to be a key parameter in making this successful, and these companies are, in our opinion, equipped to achieve those giant scales of economy going forward. So that the cost of hydrogen, ultimately the cost of green hydrogen has to be brought down from a current level of $1.5 to $2 to less than $1 at least to make it viable. But one of the inputs requirements of that is the hydrogen needs to be green. And how do we use it? And what is Schaeffler doing about it? So we are basically looking at two areas from our, let's say, our bandwidth portfolio. Firstly, we look at in the electrolyzer portfolio and the fuel cell portfolio. So there are two areas where we are working on. And if you go to the next slide, I would like to show you which are those topologies that we are looking at. So classically, if you look at an automotive fuel cell system, there's an air path, which includes the intake of the air, cleaning, compressing it, humidifying it, and then moving it into the system. So there we are using our core bearing technology and developing foil bearings for air supply units and extremely precise products which are needed in order to maintain the reliability of such systems. Moving into the hydrogen path, the hydrogen that has to be injected into the system for into the fuel cell system for production of electricity, we have something called a H2 ejector unit, which is part of the entire hydrogen circle, right from pressure regulation up to purging of the hydrogen. And next, into the coolant loop, we know that thermal management is a very critical area of entire fuel management, FCEV management system. There again, we use our core technologies coming from a strong background in thermal management. We are adapting those technologies with an additional software interfacing to basically build a complete thermal management module system, including the software development in the FCEV loop. And last but not the least, we are developing an FC stack together with our core competency of designing and manufacturing metallic bipolar plates. So just for information, in the next year or so, we are going to start mass production of bipolar plates in France. And this technology will be moved, and this is particularly for FCEV trucks with a large global OEM, and this will be moved gradually to India's countries like India when the right moment arrives in terms of the ecosystem for hydrogen. So this is the path that we're looking at in terms of development of core components of fuel cell system. Going forward, just a brief overview again on our heavy-duty value proposition, starting from a very strong base in our process know-hows across mechanical engineering technologies, the core competencies, moving on into the electrical journey by way of building active systems, which are either subsystems or a complete system for electric motors, as well as bipolar plates and the bearings and thermal management modules, and then we came into subsystems and finally system level solutions for heavy duties. Now coming to the sustainability topic, we know that we are all in this journey together towards sustainability. ESG is today no longer a fashionable word, but an absolute essential for corporates on a journey forward towards climate neutrality. So what are the areas? In core areas that we are looking at are to reduce our production emissions by 3/4 until 2025. All our plants worldwide, the 76 plants that we talked about, are going to have climate neutral production by 2030. And as a company, we will be climate neutral by 2040 in comparison to a base year calculation of 2019. And this, of course, incorporate action fields not only on our customers and products, but at the entire environment and energy ecosystem, our suppliers and material suppliers, supply chain that plays a key role, as well as the impact on employees and the society that we live in. So our ESG targets are clearly defined, and this is going to be the key topic of discussion today now, is we have 8 clear ESG patterns, starting from a climate neutral supply chain, our climate neutral production until 2030, use of renewable energy, so 100% of the purchase power that we'll use in our plants are going to sourced until 2024 will be renewable. A lot of energy efficiency measures within the organization, especially at the plant level. Fresh water supply, so recharging of fresh water, so that means a 20% reduction of fresh water supplies until 2030. Coming to employee safety, annually more than 10% annual reduction rate in LTIRs or accident rates. And of course, a key area in the field of ESG in terms of having more gender diversity in leadership and a huge promoting the base of sustainable suppliers going forward. So these are some of our key deliverables that we have achieved in 2022. This is particularly on Schaeffler India. The numbers are here, but this is just the beginning of the journey going forward. So thank you very much for your attention. Thanks, and if there are any questions, we'll take this. Thank you.